Welcome back to Double Shot. I'm Tony Pellegrino. I got with me Nick Bartolotti. We are here to talk about Wandavision. Got 9 episodes, almost 6 hours of brand new MCU content for the first time in over a year, and just a whole lot of implications for the MCU moving forward.
Yeah, we do.
So, this is our second time recording this because
WandaVision
I
take two.
I done goofed. I didn't check all my input settings for the recording, and we had absolutely no audio last time. So
We
we're
looked real
hoping
good.
we're hoping that take two is a little better. So
I don't know. I was pretty happy with that first one.
I
Let's see if
was
we can do it
too.
again.
I know. All right. So what were your opinions? Spoiler free for
Okay.
the beginning here.
Spoiler free, yeah, in the beginning, because then we're going to get into huge spoilers.
Absolutely.
Really loved the show. Went into it with not a whole lot of expectations. I was excited for it, but I also wasn't like following like online the discussion leading up to it. So I kind of went in as blind as I could. And I just starting off, I really, really enjoyed just the performances of Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany and Catherine Hahn. They just blew me away.
It's
And I
fantastic.
was so happy just watching the show in its first format. When the first couple episodes were just about like, hey, this is a fun 50s sitcom in this 50s format, and they kind of kept going with that, and I was having a good time just watching that. I was like, I knew the MCU connections and implications were coming, but I was like, just give me more of this.
Yeah, it was a wonderful time. Like every episode obviously was like kind of an amalgam of different sitcoms of each era.
Yeah.
And it was very easy to see what influences they were going for at like every time, and they did it great. There were no issues. And like you said,
Mm,
I would have been glad even if they didn't do any of the outside world stuff and just did everything inside the themed hex. I would have been
mm.
fine with that for 9 episodes. It was great.
Fine.
And the,
Exciting,
the
but
performances were obviously the biggest draw
yeah.
because Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen just haven't gotten a whole lot to do in the MCU. And this was a great
Hmm.
deep dive and look into their backstories, and it really
Hmm.
recontextualized a lot of stuff, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and I get why fans were excited about this show, like fans who were, who read the comics and know more about these characters than I do. Um, just excited to explore these characters more, and I see why now, just because,
Yeah, they're great
you know,
characters.
yeah.
All right, so you want to get into start the spoilers now?
Spoilers, let's do it.
All right.
So, I guess the first thing to talk about is the episodic weekly nature of releasing the episodes and how they dropped the first two on the same day. And then after that was episode by episode for the next 8 weeks instead of just dropping them all at once and binging it, because that had, that affected the story. That affected how we took in the information, let it sink in for about a week, think about it, theorize about it, get hyped about it, and then a week later watch the episode, because that's how TV used to be, and still
Absolutely.
kind of is, but not so much these days.
And I think the week to week format lent itself very well to the story, like you said. Um, and as we discussed, it's not a fault of the show or the showrunners, but the week to week format kind of really was the basis of a lot of the issues that people have with it. Because
Mm,
in that week in between, they had so much time to just kind of let their thoughts brew and gestate and come up with all these different theories that when they didn't come true, they were disappointed, but that's not at all on the showrunners or the writers or anything. That's on the fans for just being dumb, doing things
more or
that they
less,
know
people forgot how to
they get let their
theorize
expectations
and
get
get
way
hyped
too
and get
high.
let. People forgot about Lost.
Oh God, yeah. Um, but no, yeah, and also I really, as I had said, I liked the idea of having these week to week shows in general
Mm,
because, especially for a comic book story, it's very reminiscent of like the serialized week by week issues that would come out. Um,
yeah, for
and
sure.
I think that's really fun for these smaller stories as opposed to like all the
Mm,
big Avengers level crossover stuff.
mhm. And like, what do you say to the people that like will say like, oh, this kind of show is just a long movie,
I mean,
because
quality
it is
wise,
and
I'd
it
say
isn't.
it is, but I
Yeah.
don't think if you took all this content and didn't have any gaps, like I think if you just
Mm,
edited them all together, like took out all the credits and all that stuff, and just put it
yeah.
into its 6 hour straight runtime, a
Mm,
lot of what's fun about it would kind of disappear. Like you can't have
yeah.
cliffhangers that are immediately explained. Like we were
Yeah.
saying last time. Sorry, guys. We're going to be leaning heavily on what we already talked about.
Yeah.
The week to week model versus the binge model is very different.
Yeah.
And the one that people always go to is Stranger Things. It's a great show, and I
Mm-hmm.
binge it every time a new season comes out. But
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of weird that they end every episode with like a sort of cliffhanger
Yeah.
when you know you're going to just find out what happened in about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird to me. But actually having cliffhangers when you do have to wait a week, it's a lot more
Right.
satisfying to finally
Right.
figure out what happens, and I really like it.
And like it's funny when you have a show like that, and I'm kind of just thinking of this now. When you have a show like Stranger Things where they dropped all the episodes at once, you can binge it. But I don't think I've ever done that with any season. I don't think I've ever just binged a whole
Oh, I've never binged
season
the
or
entire season, but like I'd binge
right. Like
like 2 to 3,
I
maybe four
decided when I
episodes if I
wanted to
had
take
time
a
off.
break.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting, like giving the audience like letting them decide when they want to stop, let it simmer, and then come back to it. And it can be after the fifth episode or after the second episode, and it.
but the other big thing that we had talked about for the week to week model is that it also keeps the series in the popular zeitgeist for longer. Because again,
Yeah,
Stranger Things, whether you binge it all in one day or one week, that's still not very long. As opposed to
yeah.
this Mandalorian. I'm obviously Disney Plus is a big fan of the week to week format.
Mm-hmm.
It sticks
Didn't think
around
about
for
that.
like almost 2 months, and every
Mm-hmm.
week there's just more to talk about, and it's kind of like a water cooler talk because every week you just have something new to talk about with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think it's a great community thing. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
something you don't really get when it's all one day or a movie that just came out that you just talk about real quick and then on to the next one.
Yeah, I did too, and like I wonder for the next time a show like maybe like even with Falcon and Winter Soldier coming up next. With WandaVision, I rarely got to watch it the night it premiered. Like I sometimes had to wait a few days, so I did my best to avoid some of the internet discussion and
Right.
stuff because I didn't want to see spoilers and stuff. So I feel like I saw a bunch of that, but like I also like purposely avoided some of it. So when we get to it, talking about the disappointments people had with this show because they hyped themselves up and came up with theories that didn't end up being true. I didn't see a lot of that myself
Right.
just because I was trying to avoid it. And I knew, I like watching a show and just trying to take it all in as blind, unbiased as I can, and then going back and like having discussions like this and thinking about it.
Right. And that's also what I had started to do was a little bit before this, started rewatching the episodes to try and get some new context
Yeah.
with all the ending and everything. And it's very, very well crafted that once you know the reveals, you go back and watch them and it's a lot more obvious. But it's something you'd
Yeah.
never pick up on without
I got to go back and do
future.
that.
It's really interesting. And I only watched like
Yeah.
3 of the episodes, but it was
Yeah.
really cool.
Nice.
Um,
So it's
yeah.
cool. Like the first 3 or 4 episodes, maybe three, kind of had the same format,
The first
right?
3, yeah.
The first three, and then there was the fourth episode that finally like, hey, there's other stuff going on outside of this.
Right.
And I remember when that first happened, people were so excited, and I was too. But I was just like, all right, here we go. Let's get to the stuff. It was only a matter of time, and I was just having fun watching the 50s and the 60s, and not even just like the format of it, but just how they committed completely to the format, to the costuming, to the practical effects as opposed to the
The CGI or
CGI
right.
mix of the two. One really cool thing I noticed, and I remember I only noticed this because I learned this when I took a costuming class in college, was that when they shot in black and white, a lot of the times, they would put actors in colors that like wouldn't look good together in color,
Right.
but it's better for black and white because the shades work out. And it was usually like a lot of different shades of red. And you would never just put somebody in 5 different shades of red in real life in color, but they did in
Right.
black and white. And at the end of the second episode or third episode, when they shifted from black and white to color and you see what Wanda was wearing, it was like 5-7 different shades of
It was
red.
just dark
I'm like,
red, yeah.
yeah, and I was like, that's cool that they really.
Well, speaking of, I don't know if you saw any of like the behind the scenes stuff.
Mhm.
I still haven't watched it yet, but this Friday, for that one Friday between the end of WandaVision and the start of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they
Yeah.
released like an hour long like making of WandaVision thing, and I haven't watched it, but I've seen a lot of like stills from it that
Oh,
are being
I've
shared
seen
around.
clips of it.
And did you see
Yes.
that a couple of the clips, like for the black and white episodes, Paul Bettany was put in
Okay.
blue vision makeup because it came across better
Oh,
in the black and white.
that makes sense.
Yeah, like it's just like this
That's
dark
cool. Oh, I
navy
gotta watch
blue kind
that.
of thing.
Yeah,
And that
I
thing
love
looked
that
really good.
stuff.
It was so interesting.
So, okay, so going into the fourth episode that tied in the other MCU threads,
Right.
was that the episode that we saw post blip, post Thanos snap
Yes, that's the
in the
fourth episode.
hospital?
Started with Monica,
Yeah.
well, like reappearing, yeah, in the
Yeah.
hospital and just seeing all that chaos and everything. Yeah,
Yeah. Loved that.
and
Loved seeing that perspective.
I can't wait to see a lot more of that because
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Far From Home, they played it mostly as a joke, which
Hmm.
was like it's
Yeah.
fine for the tone of that movie. It worked, and I liked it.
Hmm.
But I want to see a lot more of these like real world implications for just the absolute chaos that would have happened when they first disappeared,
Hmm.
and honestly,
Hmm.
probably more chaos when they reappeared because they were just finally starting to get everything kind of
Hmm.
more
That's
adjusted,
a good
and
point.
then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, and like you said, especially in a hospital, like where it's already kind of chaos
Yeah.
and life and death
Yeah.
in most parts, then just all of
Yeah.
a sudden having hundreds of people just appearing in random rooms. Some of them may have been patients who were already
Hmm.
dying, like someone with cancer could have disappeared, come back. They still have cancer. They need more treatment.
Oh my God. I
So
didn't
like,
think about
yeah,
that.
so like it's a
Woo!
lot of really messed up stuff that
That's
they're just
dark.
yeah. So I would
Yeah.
really like to see a lot more of that, and like I find it
Uh
super
huh.
interesting. I'm
Uh
hoping
huh.
they do more of
Wow.
that in Phase 4.
Yeah. So that's when we is that when we meet Monica,
Yes,
who we find out is the daughter of
Maria
wow, not
Rambo.
Carol. Yes,
Maria,
Maria
yeah,
Rambo, Carol Danvers' friend. Yeah, and
right.
yeah. So that was cool that she became a more prominent figure.
Hmm. Well, there was already a lot of talk about it because in the
Yeah.
comics, she's had multiple superhero mantles. She was also a version of Captain
Mhm.
Marvel. She was Photon, and I believe another one called Spectrum. So she's
Okay.
done quite a lot. And then obviously through the show, we see her basically her origin story, at least of her
Yeah.
powers. Uh,
Yeah.
and I hope that they build a lot more on
Mhm.
her goals as a superhero when she
Mhm.
pops up in Captain Marvel 2, because I'd really like to see
Yeah.
a lot more of what kind of draws her to being a superhero and like what she wants to take care of.
The most interesting thing to me is I feel like they really brushed, not even they, like she brushed that off.
Yeah.
Like she got the powers and like all this stuff started to happen to her and like we don't see her react to getting that stuff. Maybe she
Not
did, but
really.
we don't see it.
Yeah.
Like they just kept the focus on Wanda and everything going on inside the hex. And she just kind of like based on what we see of her, she just was going about her life as normal when she has all these powers all of a sudden.
Yeah, and even like at the end after the hex, like after everything is taken care of and it's just like kind of
Yeah.
getting back to normal, no
Yeah.
one mentions it. Like she's just talking to Jimmy and like
Yeah.
having normal conversations. And then she
Yeah.
obviously goes into the theater and meets with the Skrull who says that Nick Fury wants to see her.
Yes.
But like not a single
Well, he
mention.
doesn't say Nick Fury.
The Skrull says he
The
wants
scroll
to speak
said
with you or whatever. But
right.
it's very
And when he said that,
it's implied.
I didn't even realize it was Nick Fury. I didn't realize who they were referring to until I read it somewhere. They're like, oh, they probably meant Nick Fury, and I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's heavily implied, but it could be
Sure.
anyone. It could be Talos. Could
Yeah.
be any characters that might be introduced in a few upcoming projects. Who knows?
But we assume that it's Nick Fury because the last we saw him in a post-credit scene, he was on a scroll ship.
Yeah, he
No,
was.
not a scroll ship.
I
A
mean,
sword ship.
It just shows
A
a
ship.
ship, but yeah, it's Sword pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
But in the MCU, it seems like Sword is basically just being birthed alongside of Skrulls. In
Yeah.
Captain Marvel, the Skrulls we saw were a small group of this race who are more refugees than anything, just trying
Yeah.
to escape the Kree. Whereas in the comics, Skrulls are more of a villain.
Okay. Yes, I remember
Hence the
reading
Secret
about that
Wars and
after
everything.
Captain Marvel, how they kind of did the fake out where most people assume the Skrulls to be villainous, but then they went the other route with it
For
and they
this,
made
yeah.
him more
So
refugees,
I
like
don't
you
know if
said.
they're going to lean into that and just kind of
Mhm.
continue making the Skrulls seem like good guys, or
Mhm.
if they're going to
I bet they
actually
would.
do the comic book thing, which is Secret Wars, Or Secret
Or they
Invasion,
can
not
even
Secret
do,
Wars.
yeah,
I
they
keep
could do
messing
the
up.
thing where that colony that we saw,
Right.
who are refugees, were also just like could be refugees from their own people.
You can always have one single like activist or outlier or terrorist from a group that has no association with the larger organization.
Right.
So it could still be that.
Going back to just the show as a whole, we haven't talked about fake Pietro yet, Fietro, and that's kind of where a lot of the, I guess, disappointment lies.
I think that's the single theory that made most people mad, because the biggest prevailing theories in all the like online discourse that you didn't really pay attention to, that I paid a lot of attention to, it was mostly about like who's going to be the big bad, Mephisto, Nightmare, and then also they were like, oh, the introduction of the Fantastic Four, blah blah blah, and then obviously when Evan Peters showed up, there was huge implications for like a multiverse reaching out to pre-established multiverses. So there was a lot of hype around that, and so many theories about how they were drawing in the X-Men universe, like the old Fox movies and everything.
And when he showed up, when Evan Peters shows up as Quicksilver, as Wanda's brother who was supposed to be dead, and that reveal happened, I didn't have like the same reaction a lot of people did, because I didn't see any of the X-Men movies that he was in. I didn't know he played Quicksilver. I just didn't have that connection. No,
Damn,
I had no idea.
I thought you knew, just didn't see them.
Wow. I had to read about it. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense why people think there's a multiverse thing happening now.
Go watch those, because his appearance. Maybe not all of them, but definitely watch First Class and Days of Future Past. And at least
was he in First Class?
He wasn't, but like,
okay, because that's the one I have. I did see, and I have the most strongest memories is First Class, but I didn't see.
Days of Future Past is where he shows up first.
Yeah, I guess.
And then he has probably the best scene in Apocalypse. Because it's just Apocalypse was it was just an alright movie, but his scene was really cool. But anyway, so that was like the huge discourse was around what his appearance meant, like how everything was going to tie together, and it wasn't helped by all the commentary from people involved saying like Kevin Feige only allowed it because he would only let this happen if there was a way to make it make sense and like make it worthwhile.
So I remember seeing that. When did he say that?
It was I don't know. I remember seeing it a few times also, but I don't even remember if it was a direct Kevin Feige quote or if it was a quote from one of the other actors saying Kevin Feige said that.
Oh, okay.
So like I just know that it was a big point of contention, but I don't know the specifics.
They put so much weight into the character and what his story was, and like you said, he ended up just being a dick joke. That's what it all was for.
That's why nobody really seemed to be super mad about the other theories not panning out. But that one felt more like a slap in the face because it felt like it was very purposeful. All the other ones was literally just internet people making stuff up. Yeah. But that one, they were like, hey, here's something for you guys.
Yeah, because again, there's nothing wrong with the fake out and it being something not what people expected, but that it was just a big FU.
There's also that doubled down with Paul Bettany, which I still think is hilarious, but Paul Bettany's whole statement about there being like this huge secret cameo at the end, an actor he's always wanted to work with, and it was just himself.
Oh, that's true.
I think that's hilarious still, but
that is hilarious.
That also pissed a lot of people off because they were like tying that into, they were like, oh, well, it's going to have to be Patrick Stewart or Ian McKellen because now we have an X-Men crossover. So like, we're going to definitely bring one of these guys in, like these big hard power hitters. And then Paul Bettany was just like, no.
Nah, it's me. I wanted to work with me. That's really funny.
It's Paul Bettany all along.
Yeah, so Agatha, right? The song.
I was really hoping to lean into that.
There we go. So Agnes, who is a character in Wanda's world that she's created, she's Agnes, the nosy neighbor, who ends up being Agatha Harkness, and they give her a theme song.
A great theme song. An absolute
Also,
banger.
can we just talk about, I don't think we even talked about this the first time, how every decade got its own theme song.
Yeah, it was great. And it was always like, not parody, but an homage to one of the series that they were doing their style of.
Yeah, they were great.
They were.
We had Dick Van Dyke, we had Bewitched.
But then the 80s one was Family Ties thing.
Yes, okay, yep.
And the 90s was a little Full House. And the 2000s one, the song very clearly was The Office.
Right.
but the visual itself didn't.
Mm.
It was more of like Modern Family, I think.
Or the one before The Office, I felt was very like Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, that's what it was.
Like,
Yeah, I said Full House. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah,
That was literally, yes. The '90s episode was 100% Malcolm in the Middle.
yeah.
Sorry,
It was weird. It's like
skipped over that
they
in
were
my
doing
head.
50s, 60s,
And then like the
I feel like,
'70s and '80s kind of mixed, and then the '80s and '90s kind of mixed.
or yeah, the 90s and 2000s. I don't know.
Yeah,
They definitely had some crossover there.
yeah,
Yeah, and then Agatha gets her own Munsters version of her
fantastic.
theme song, and I listened to the song you told me to, where
Yeah, it's so good.
it was Munsters and Fall Out Boy's
Uma Thurman,
Irma Thurman. Thank you, because they also sample it.
right?
It was good.
And yeah, I really can't wait to go out to a bar in a few months and just hear Agatha All Along mixed with Uma Thurman.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get up on a table. I'll get kicked
We'll
out.
lose it.
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
So good. Yeah, so then as far as like the other ways that they tied in, other than dropping Easter eggs and stuff, they brought back Jimmy Woo
Yes.
from Ant-Man, Darcy from Thor, which I think that was probably like the most least expected comeback.
Darcy?
Yeah. Like, I don't think anybody really
She
expected her to come
She
back.
was nobody's favorite character in any of her movies. No offense to Kat Dennings. She's a great actress,
Mhm.
but like that character
Mhm.
just... The first movie, she was a little better, but in the second one, she was just annoying. Like, she really didn't have a whole lot to do. She just
Mhm.
was comic relief, but like in the worst way. But she was way, way better in this show. Like, I really enjoyed her being around. Yeah, Frozen.
And that was the funny thing. Like, she comes in and like she's clearly smarter than everyone. No one expects her to be, and she's the one that finds the broadcast signal.
Right,
of
what kind of
WandaVision.
radiation.
Mhm.
Damn it, I forget what the CMBR, cosmic microwave background radiation, I think.
Yes,
If I'm
yes.
right, I'm very proud of myself if that's the correct
It's close. You're close. And I thought that was really cool too. How these characters outside the Hex, the FBI agents, and her, they were watching Wanda's broadcast, and it kind of mirrored us, the audience, also watching WandaVision.
And I love that.
And yeah, seeing them speculate as to what's going to happen in the show, seeing them get all, into it the way like we did, seeing them like they have theories written up on whiteboards.
Which should have been our first clue as to none of this is going to happen. Like, it should have been so obvious by them writing everything that, like, these internet videos every week breaking down Easter eggs had the same exact kind of format as was on their whiteboards. They looked like Charlie Day, like with the red strings behind him, like the cigarette hanging out of his mouth. So it should have been very obvious that that's not what
the
show
writers
is about.
knew what fans were going to be doing,
and that's not what the show was about. It wasn't about adding new people or like connecting all these dots. It was about exploring Wanda's grief, and
correct.
It did a perfect job of what it wanted to do.
Yeah,
I was perfectly fine with it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, and that's the big takeaway from the show, is that like there was no big villain other than maybe Agatha.
She was a 2-dimensional villain with a 1-dimensional plan, and that's fine because they finally did something good that they don't do often with villains, and they left her alive. And it seemed whenever they do leave villains alive, they come back, and it's great.
Yes.
Like, obviously Baron Zemo is coming back for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I'm pretty sure he's like one of the only other villains who wasn't killed at the end of one of their movies. So obviously we're going to see more of Agnes, and maybe next time she'll have a much better kind of villainous involvement, or she could be more of an ally, because in the comics she's been both.
And it shows, what we've seen of her, that it could go either way with her. Like, she doesn't have like purely evil for the sake of being evil intentions, but the most 3-dimensional character was Wanda herself, and what we see her go through, is interesting for what is about to happen going forward. How, her grief was basically the main antagonist. Like, she created this fake world because of her sadness, because of everything that she went through, everything she lost. And like you said previously, like, out of all the Avengers, of all the characters that we've gotten to know in the MCU, she went through the most. She lost the most. Losing Vision, getting him back, losing him again, getting him back, losing him again.
And that's another thing. I'm glad that we are going to get more Vision going forward, even if it's not the Vision that we know.
Yeah.
Very similar to the comics. after Vision died, he was revived in this white version
Mm.
who contained all of his memories, but none of the humanity that the other Vision did. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's obviously what we saw happen in the finale. We saw White Vision come in, but he didn't even have the memories until Vision did his like finger thing and like transmitted all
Yeah.
the memories. But he still doesn't have
Yeah.
the humanity or anything, so he just kind of
Yep.
disappeared. But I think going forward, he'll be more of an ally. He won't be an antagonist, but he
Mhm.
definitely won't be the same one that we know and love. He's gonna have all those memories of like his relationship and everything with Wanda, but it's just gonna be kind of like a, yeah, that's, I'm aware of it, and
Yeah.
sort of thing. It's gonna be an interesting dynamic between them if they come across each other again in the
Right.
near future.
And they hint that, or they basically explain that the humanity side of Vision comes from the Mind Stone,
Right.
because that's, you know, partially how he was created to begin with, and that Mind Stone still exists within Wanda because that is
The
what
source
gives
of
her her
power.
powers.
Right.
So
So-
I wonder if they're going to somehow give an excuse for Vision to get his humanity back through Wanda's.
I'm hoping that
Mind
if
Stone.
they do, I'm hoping they at least give us a little time before that happens. Like, I don't want it to be like, hey, here's this big problem that Vision isn't human anymore, and then Wanda just comes in, like, shoots a little spell at him and fixes him. Like, I want there to be some tension because of it that lasts at least for like a full movie or like a couple episodes of another series or something before they fix that.
You know, Wanda being just a very relatable character, and we find out that, you know, she knows she has all these people under her control in this perfect suburbia that she's created. But she doesn't find out. We don't find out until towards the end of the show that these people are just absolutely being tortured.
Yeah.
Because even though they're under her control, they're also feeling her grief.
Right.
And one of them even says, like, let us go or just kill us. Like, that's how much, like, pain they're in.
We got a kind of hint of that in either the third or fifth episode, whichever one was the 80s one, I think. When Vision, like, woke up Norm, and he just started freaking the hell out. So
that was great.
We knew that something beyond mind control was going on, like, not realizing it was literally her sharing her pain with everyone.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like, when everyone woke up and, like, there's just, like, 20, 30 people begging for death almost. Like, that's when you really realize, oh, shit. Like, this is way worse than you thought.
And at one point, I think it might have been in the finale, we see Wanda start to let the hex dissipate, let this world vanish, but then she starts to see that that will also end up killing her two sons that were born in this hex, and then Vision himself, and she sees that she's about to lose him. She's like, nope. So she definitely struggled with it. And just going back to like Norm waking up and being put back to him, like that was just like an awesome performance by where I don't know the actor's name.
His name is Asif, I think. I don't know. He's popped up on he showed up on my TikTok for you page. He's really funny.
Really so good to go from like 0 to 100 back to 0 again.
I hope he gets the Jimmy Woo treatment, just like pops back up in something as a secondary character.
It's cool that they're not opposed to doing that. Like, obviously the story around our, you know, the familiar faces has pretty much come to an end. Captain America, Iron Man, mostly, you know, we're kind of done with the core cast, but all these secondary characters, seeing them pop up again and have ties to those characters is cool.
That's what I think their biggest obstacle was going into Phase 4 was realizing that like the Holy Trinity is pretty much gone. Like the only two original Avengers left, well, three, I guess, are Hulk, Thor, and Hawkeye. And Hulk, because of rights, you still can't make a Hulk movie.
Is that why?
Yeah, because Universal owns the rights. So they made that first one back in 2008. And because of the rights, he's allowed to be in other movies, but he can't have a solo outing. So that's why, like, Avengers and
I did not know that.
Ragnarok and Infinity War into Endgame was kind of like a Hulk story arc.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense now.
Yeah. So, like, out of your main original 6, you only have 2 that you could do anything with. Hawkeye's getting his own show, but Thor is probably the biggest one now.
Now, is it confirmed that Black Widow's movie is going to be like a prequel?
Yes, it's supposed to take
'Cause
place.
I know.
I want to say between Civil War and Infinity War.
Okay, because I know some people were saying like, oh, it could be a multiverse thing. They could bring her back, and okay.
I mean, technically it can be, but even if it's in a separate universe, it's taking place during that time.
And I think there's the writers and creators are smart enough to know this. Like once you introduce the multiverse, like nothing is off the table. Like anyone can come back. Iron Man can come back. But I think they know they can't just do that.
Right, because then it really takes away the weight of their deaths in the first place. I think Black Widow would be the one that, if you're going to bring someone back, you should. Because Tony's death, literally, it was like the perfect ending for an 11-year story. Or was it 11? 11-year
11.
Character arc. And Captain America, almost same thing. He got his pretty much perfect send-off. But Black Widow, it felt a little untimely. So, I don't know.
But like you said, we were supposed to have already seen that Black Widow movie by this point, if it wasn't for
it was supposed to come out May last year. So, everything about Phase 4 kind of got restructured. Because I'm pretty sure Eternals has also been done. Like, it's done with post-production and everything. And that's pushed back to November. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think, was supposed to come out. I think it was originally supposed to be Black Widow, then Falcon and Winter Soldier, then Eternals, and then WandaVision.
Oh, wow.
I believe. I may be wrong, but yeah. So because of all that, everything just got kind of switched around. And I think that some of the payoffs that people were looking for might still happen. And they just happened to go out of order because of the restructuring of the releases.
So I think the biggest teases that we got at the end of WandaVision going forward were that scene with Monica and potentially Nick Fury, but also Doctor Strange.
Right.
And we already know...
Agatha straight up says that Wanda is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, Stephen Strange. And then, just to show it to us, a big thing everyone's been talking about is like the very end credit scene where Wanda's like out on the front porch just kind of enjoying coffee at a cabin. And then the camera pans like through the house and she is astral projecting in the back room, like reading the Darkhold. And you hear her kids yelling. So even though they disappeared from the Hex, they may have just gone into a pocket dimension or something. Like they still exist somewhere. So they're doing all that. But that shows that she's stronger than Doctor Strange, because his whole thing was when he astral projects, he has to be asleep or like unconscious or something. And she could just do it while she's hanging out.
I didn't make that connection. Okay.
I didn't either. I read it somewhere. But it's a good point.
Yeah. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
When is that supposed to come out?
That one isn't until next year, because the Multiverse trilogy is supposed to be WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2, in that order. WandaVision obviously just finished. Spider-Man 3, I believe the release date is December 21st of this year.
Okay, so yeah, Doctor Strange has to be next year.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how deep into next year, but yeah.
Okay.
And this is just something I wanted to throw out. We didn't talk about it last time, but the release of the title of the Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, that scares me a little bit.
Oh.
I feel like that might be a way for Sony to kind of pull Peter out of the MCU into his own separate multiverse or separate universe. Because if there's no way home, there's no way to get back to his original homeworld. Like he might get stuck in the Sonyverse, which has like Venom and Carnage and pretty soon Morbius and all that. So it might not be permanent, but I think that might be a short way for them to just kind of reap their own benefits and take him away.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to like
Oh, no.
I'm going to be sad.
Now you got me sad.
That's my own personal... Like, I didn't read that anywhere. There's no confirmation, nothing, but that's just like how
of course. But it's a solid theory. And, okay, so, and there's also a reason that, and I didn't realize this until recently, the reason why people kept on thinking that they were going to bring the Fantastic Four into WandaVision was because I guess Monica kept on referencing Dr. Reed, right? She
said that she had an engineer friend who would make the tank that they needed to like kind of go through Wanda's Hex, which obviously didn't work anyway. The tank got obliterated. But yeah, so she just said, I have an engineer friend, and everyone was like, hey guys, this is Tony. I'm editing right now. And I just want to let you know that if you're a huge Marvel fan, you're going to be really mad at us for the next 10 seconds. Don't worry, I'm really mad too. This might be the dumbest mistake I've ever made. Sorry in advance, and please don't send hate mail. Thank you for understanding. It's got to be Richard
Mhm.
Reed. Is it Richard
Richard
Reed?
Reed.
Thank you.
I think it's Richard Reed. Yeah.
I don't know why I just brain farted on that. Yeah. So everyone was like freaking out, but I was like, they're not gonna like that would be an awful way to introduce someone.
Yeah.
But then it just turned out to be like a random army friend. Like it wasn't even
Oh, really? It was just okay.
the character that they introduced. It's not even like a comic book established character or something. It's just
It was
someone.
just a friend.
So a lot of people were again. It's all they set their expectations too high. It's no. It didn't really matter. It was just every Easter egg they think has to mean something, and it sucks. I just don't want the MCU fans to turn into like Star Wars fans, where they just get so mad about like unmet expectations that they start to like petition for rewrites and crap.
Yeah, it's dumb because what people talk about online are often just the reveals and the twists.
And it's fun to discuss possibilities.
Sure,
but it's
but there's
not
so
going
much
to
more to
be-
the show than the twists,
Exactly.
you know?
And again, this being a small, self-contained, single
Mhm.
character story, like it wasn't meant to connect dots and like introduce new characters and concepts. It was just exploration of grief.
Yeah, so okay, just some points. Loved Scarlet Witch's outfit at the
It
end.
was so good.
Like
It was
perfect.
fantastic.
Like that's a high bar to set for the rest of everyone going forward.
Well, I think it's a really promising look, and so I'm hoping moving forward they really do a good job of homaging these classic comic book costumes without making them too campy or weird. And obviously, in the case of the female characters, overly sexualized because that's a big issue with the comics. But
of course,
but this was like it was very practical and not like over the top. Like it was a very good costume. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't notice that again I saw in one of the videos, like on her collar, like right in the front, there's a hole that's like the shape of the Mind Stone.
Oh,
so that's just again the attention to detail is outstanding. Super cool.
But that's gone, right?
Technically, but like you said, it's still within her. It's the source of her powers, and obviously, it's what gave Vision life. So, like, even if it is no longer in existence, it still has a lot of meaning to her and her character.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's a nice touch. I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, but like the end of the first Doctor Strange movie, character Mordo,
yes,
who ended up,
he's
becoming
like, too many sorcerers.
Right, becoming the villain, and we haven't seen anything from him.
No, and I don't know if he's. I don't think he's going to be like the main bad guy in Doctor Strange 2, but he should pop up.
Will Wanda be the main bad guy? Will she be? Because we're definitely going to get a lot of like Civil War, Tony Stark,
hero on hero punch ups.
Right, basically like not their ideals not lining up eye to eye with each other.
I think it's going to be more of like a maybe while trying to find her kids in this pocket universe or wherever they are, she might accidentally like break the multiverse. But I don't think she's going to be a straight up villain. She might be the catalyst for whatever happens, but I don't think she's going to. Because like even towards the end of this, if she wanted to be a villain, she could. They had that whole line where Monica said, "Don't let Hayward make you the villain." She said, "Maybe I already am." And then the next, like, couple hours later, she gave up her kids, her husband, and, like, her perfect life to save everyone because she's not evil. So, yeah, she's just trying her
And then
best.
Monica said, "They'll never know what you gave up."
Right. Yeah, so she really cares more about people than herself. So she is a hero. She's just very misguided and maybe she's a little... She doesn't know enough, obviously, because she learned stuff from Agatha, like how the whole runes, only the witch who casts the runes can do their magic. She didn't even know that, and then use that for the finale. So
she didn't know how she created the world in which she did. She didn't know how she was controlling everyone. She just did.
And now she's just reading like the book of like the most dangerous book of dark magic in
Mhm.
the MCU, pretty much. And
Yeah.
there's no doubt that she's going to accidentally do something.
Yeah, and it's crazy how big of a thing magic is now just becoming in the MCU, whereas
Mhm.
just like it was before Doctor Strange even was barely a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they're also like kind of delving into the different sources of magic. Like Doctor Strange obviously learning it all, the mystic arts and everything. Wanda's technically being chaos magic. And Agatha, I don't remember what hers exactly was, but also you could tell they're like different colors. They all have different.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we
Agatha's
have
was
the red
blue,
magic,
purple,
the
and green.
purple magic, and the shiny yellow
And
magic.
if you want to get technical, blue magic, because that's what her son had.
Right.
I
Yes.
don't remember which one's Billy and which one's Tommy. I'm sorry, but whichever one
neither do I.
grows up to be Wiccan.
Yes.
Yeah, his magic was blue.
Right.
So everyone's got their different stuff. And I don't
All
think
their
it was a
own
matter of lightsabers where they were just like, well, we need to be able to tell them apart, so let's give them different colors.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything has a meaning.
Yeah.
So
Which is cool. Yeah. I'm excited. Falcon and the Winter Soldier this Friday?
Yep, 5 more days.
5 more days.
Super excited.
Cool. Well, I hope this recording worked.
Dude, I don't know if you keep seeing me glance over. I'm just making sure that the audio bars
There's still audio level speaking.
Everything's happening. Thanks for listening, everyone. And if you watched, thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out our other videos. Nick has his Load Time series, and I have my series Arp House Films, which are both on this channel. And don't forget to follow us on our other social medias, particularly the brand new Twitter, @BrewBotPresents.
That's the one.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.